Checking an ID is more than you think it is. Different law enforcement agencies conduct what are called compliance checks. They will send in persons under the age of 21 to attempt to be served alcohol or will attempt to purchase an alcoholic beverage. Too many times, the minor is served or sold the alcoholic beverage during these checks. At this point in time in our classroom education, I will choose one student to give their ID to another student, and for that student to check their ID. After they check the ID, they will usually say, yes, I was served this individual. My next question to them is this: what is the expiration date on the ID? 95% of the time, nobody can tell me the expiration date of the ID. Or, I like to find a student who will be 21 this year, but is not 21 yet. And 75% of the time, the opposing student will say, yes, I would serve them. And I say, well, you just served a minor. They say, how do you figure that? I say, well, they will be 21 at the end of this year. You've got to check an ID closer. This is a 10-point checking ID card. There are 10 things I'm going to ask you to look for on an ID. Now, you might be thinking, 10 things on an ID? I don't have time to look at 10 things on an ID. Trust me, you don't have time not to. If you serve a minor in this day and age, the ramifications, both civil and legal, can be huge. Number one, look at the expiration date. If an ID is expired, it is not valid. Number two, the issue date. Is it 5 years from the expiration date? Number three, their photograph. When you ask somebody for their ID and they open up their wallet and they go like this, what do you say to them? You ask them to remove it from their wallet and hand it to you. Please don't touch their wallet or purse. They may accuse you of taking something out of there. You want to hold the ID in your hand. When you look at the photo, you look straight across. Remember, it's much easier to look at somebody straight across this way than it is up and down, because the way somebody's eyes are will never, ever, ever change. Number four, their year of birth. Number five, the day of birth. Number six, the month of birth. Number seven, does the age match up? If the individual who you are questioning is even 21 years of age or older, if their date of birth says they're much older than their appearance, you might ask for another piece of identification. Number eight, look at their height. Number nine, their weight. And number 10, the state seal. Look for blurred images, something drawn on there. Is it the correct state seal? A partial state seal? I remember one time looking at a young man's ID and I realized the state seal was a hologram that said an official seal of authenticity.